Many people secretly carry deep emotional exhaustion every single day while showing the world a completely fake smile. You constantly endure intense, silent emotional pain entirely alone, hoping someone might finally notice your deeply hidden tears. Severe, lingering emotional burnout eventually drains your entire spirit, leaving your heavy soul feeling completely and utterly exhausted. A profound sense of total emotional disconnection makes you feel entirely alone, even when surrounded by many friends. Projecting constant fake emotional strength becomes a daily habit to ensure absolutely nobody sees your true internal struggles. Overwhelming, heavy mental exhaustion keeps your anxious mind racing constantly, desperately searching for some small moment of peace. An intense, paralyzing fear of vulnerability forces you to carefully hide everything securely inside the dark, quiet shadows. The massive, invisible emotional pressure keeps building up daily, steadily making your hidden burdens feel significantly, unbearably heavier. Eventually, a complete, devastating emotional shutdown occurs, leaving you feeling entirely numb and completely disconnected from the world. You constantly experience a devastating, hidden emotional collapse in private while pretending that absolutely everything is perfectly fine. A massive, paralyzing fear of emotional honesty prevents you from ever sharing your deepest, most agonizing internal wounds. Constantly carrying massive, invisible emotional weight entirely by yourself slowly drains every single ounce of your daily energy. Severe daily emotional masking fatigue makes simply forcing a basic smile feel like an incredibly difficult, exhausting chore. Your completely drained, weary soul begins deeply longing for genuine rest and true, uninterrupted peace away from everything. A profound, deep emotional longing quietly aches for someone who will truly, genuinely understand your intensely hidden pain. You finally reach a terrifying, absolute emotional breaking point, seriously wondering how much longer you can physically endure. Your agonizing, silent suffering remains locked safely away because the heavy burden of explaining it feels too difficult. Yet even amidst the isolating darkness, Jesus clearly sees your exhaustion and gently offers his perfect divine comfort. You constantly suppress your intense emotional pain, which eventually leaves your entire physical body feeling completely exhausted today. You do not want any extra attention. Your weary soul simply desires genuine understanding and quiet comfort now. Living with this severe, deep emotional fatigue makes getting out of bed feel incredibly difficult every single morning. You quietly internalize all your agonizing pain because speaking about your heavy daily struggles feels entirely too exhausting. Absolutely nobody sees the massive, invisible emotional burden you faithfully carry on your tired shoulders every single day. Faking a bright, happy smile constantly becomes an automatic, daily habit to successfully protect your secretly shattered heart. You eventually sink into complete emotional numbness, constantly feeling totally disconnected from both your loved ones and yourself. The endless, agonizing performance of pretending everything is perfectly fine leaves your spirit severely depleted and utterly broken. A terrifying sense of deep emotional suffocation makes you feel entirely trapped inside your own dark, anxious mind. Profound emotional confusion completely overwhelms your thoughts, making it incredibly difficult to explain exactly why you hurt inside. You consistently choose absolute silence as a desperate protection mechanism to avoid burdening anyone with your heavy sadness. A painful, lingering feeling of emotional invisibility convinces your fragile heart that nobody truly sees your silent suffering. Severe mental overload continuously floods your busy brain, making every single daily decision feel like an absolute impossibility. Enduring this constant emotional overload silently destroys your internal peace, leaving you feeling completely exhausted and entirely overwhelmed. You can stand in a very crowded room and still experience a completely paralyzing sense of deep isolation. Constantly forcing yourself to appear incredibly strong for everyone else eventually causes a devastating, hidden emotional nervous breakdown. This profound identity exhaustion makes you stare into the mirror and barely recognize the sad person staring back. Deep spiritual exhaustion leaves your core feeling completely empty, desperately aching for a single moment of true relief. Even when you hide your deepest struggles from everyone else, Jesus always clearly sees your true silent pain. He offers complete emotional safety, gracefully reminding your highly exhausted heart that pretending is simply no longer necessary. Jesus deeply understands your hidden suffering and patiently sits beside you during those painfully quiet, completely isolating moments. His pure divine reassurance promises that your fragile, hurting soul will absolutely never be left behind or forgotten. With profound spiritual understanding, he acknowledges every single ounce of the severe exhaustion secretly crushing your weary spirit. You no longer have to carry this immense emotional burden entirely alone because Jesus willingly shares the weight. Enduring spiritual comfort gracefully surrounds you as his divine love steadily stays beside your most painful dark days. He offers beautiful emotional validation, gently reminding your weary heart that your hidden pain still truly, deeply matters. His endless compassion reaches directly into your silent pain, perfectly understanding the heavy tears you never openly cry. You can finally experience genuine emotional safety, knowing that your exhausted mind is entirely protected by his grace. Through every single agonizing moment of your quiet suffering, Jesus faithfully remains securely anchored, right by your side. True emotional healing finally begins when you softly accept that your drained, weary soul desperately deserves true rest. A profound, deep, emotional healing desire finally begins awakening inside your completely exhausted heart that desperately wants peace. Severe survival exhaustion completely leaves your weary soul feeling totally drained after constantly fighting alone every single day. His profound, divine emotional understanding beautifully wraps around your heavily burdened spirit with absolute, unconditional, and gentle grace. Genuine emotional honesty begins emerging when you miraculously realize that carrying fake strength is absolutely no longer necessary. Profound spiritual exhaustion ultimately pushes your highly anxious mind to finally surrender control and seek true, lasting rest. Beautiful, comforting grace begins entering your deep pain, gently holding your completely shattered heart during the darkest nights. A quiet, desperate desire for genuine restoration finally softly blooms within your incredibly tired, heavily guarded, fragile soul. Incredible, lasting emotional relief begins washing over you as you slowly, carefully learn how to safely breathe again. Perfect, divine emotional validation completely transforms your perspective, beautifully reminding your spirit that your sadness absolutely matters today. His constant, steady divine presence quietly proves that he never, ever stopped profoundly caring about your intense suffering. Feeling beautifully and entirely emotionally safe allows your highly exhausted mind to totally let go of all pretending. Your massive, invisible emotional burden begins beautifully softening, allowing your completely drained soul to slowly feel significantly lighter. His unwavering divine faithfulness gently assures your heavily broken heart that Jesus absolutely will never abandon your pain. An honest, raw, emotional confession finally releases the massive, agonizing pressure that you carried silently for so long. An incredibly small, beautiful spark of emotional hope bravely suggests that genuine, lasting healing might actually be possible. Beautiful, calming, emotional stabilization securely arrives as his perfect, unconditional grace tenderly holds your completely fragile, exhausted pieces. A beautiful, enduring emotional calm gently begins returning today, softly replacing those massive, invisible layers of profound exhaustion. An incredible, sweeping emotional release finally washes over your weary spirit, allowing you to genuinely breathe freely again. Profound spiritual reassurance beautifully settles inside your quiet heart, confirming that Jesus absolutely never abandoned your heavy struggles. The deep, suffocating isolation slowly fades away, miraculously healing that terrifying, heavy loneliness you constantly carried entirely alone. True, lasting emotional restoration carefully pieces your beautifully fragile soul together, making your heavily guarded heart genuinely softer. Genuine emotional openness safely becomes possible because you miraculously realize that hiding your pain is entirely unnecessary today. His gentle spiritual healing powerfully carries your deeply exhausted soul through every single incredibly difficult, dark emotional season. You beautifully survived those agonizingly painful, completely exhausting emotional nights simply because his steadfast grace securely sustained you. By fully accepting genuine emotional rest, your utterly weary spirit successfully learns that it truly deserves beautiful peace. Perfect, divine reassurance completely surrounds your fragile mind, gently reminding you that Jesus deeply understands heavily exhausted hearts. This incredible, lasting spiritual restoration happens incredibly slowly, beautifully changing your severely battered heart with pure, unconditional love. Complete emotional freedom finally arrives when you securely understand that performing constant fake strength is absolutely never required. Because true emotional safety is beautifully restored, your entirely drained soul finally feels completely secure resting here today. His faithful divine comfort remains absolutely steady, proving that Jesus willingly stayed right beside your absolute worst pain. Enduring, quiet inner peace slowly arrives, miraculously washing over your heavily exhausted heart like a beautiful, gentle wave. Your beautiful, gentle emotional recovery steadily unfolds little by little, gracefully carrying you entirely away from heavy darkness. Incredible emotional relief finally arrives today, beautifully allowing your deeply tired spirit to experience genuine, lasting inner lightness. His perfect divine faithfulness gently reminds you that Jesus safely stayed beside you through absolutely every single struggle. You are safely learning how to embrace true emotional peace after enduring such incredibly long, painful, exhausting seasons. Your beautifully exhausted mind finally slows down, gently replacing constant mental panic with enduring, deep, spiritual, inner calmness. The agonizing feeling of profound emotional invisibility completely disappears when his radiant grace finally notices your weary heart. Incredible spiritual comfort continually surrounds you, beautifully proving that his steady grace never abandoned your deep, hidden pain. Your heavy, defensive silence finally softens, beautifully allowing genuine emotional openness to carefully bloom within your tired spirit. You bravely survived those incredibly difficult emotional days simply because his unconditional love provided true, lasting, divine endurance. Accepting this gentle emotional rest confirms that your completely exhausted heart entirely deserves experiencing profound, lasting inner peace. His deep, perfect emotional comfort safely reminds your spirit that Jesus intimately understands all your heavy, hidden exhaustion. This gentle emotional restoration unfolds very quietly, beautifully bringing true healing directly into your deepest, darkest, hidden wounds. Profound divine validation beautifully surrounds you, firmly assuring your heavily burdened soul that someone finally, truly, deeply listens. His incredible spiritual healing continues actively working, securely proving that divine grace absolutely never stopped reaching toward you. Your massive emotional burden finally softens entirely as you miraculously realize that carrying everything alone is completely over. Beautiful emotional freedom begins blooming gracefully within, firmly reminding your spirit that hidden pain cannot ever control you. Divine emotional safety securely anchors your heart, peacefully confirming that Jesus remained faithfully beside you through absolutely everything. You finally realize that your profound, incredible existence absolutely still matters deeply within this wonderfully restored world. His beautiful, constant, divine presence gently reassures your incredibly weary spirit, confirming Jesus never ignored your pain. By fully accepting this beautiful, gentle restoration, your completely exhausted, heavily burdened soul finally learns you deserve peace. A profound, lasting emotional stability securely anchors your fragile mind, leaving your deeply wounded soul feeling much calmer. True, liberating emotional honesty gracefully replaces your massive, invisible defense mechanisms when you finally stop pretending perfectly today. This incredible, gentle spiritual transformation unfolds perfectly as his boundless, divine grace deeply changes your thoroughly exhausted heart. Genuine, lasting emotional security is beautifully restored, allowing your heavily guarded spirit to finally feel completely safe here. A profoundly deep, enduring emotional peace tenderly surrounds you entirely, while your weary heart slowly finds lasting rest. His completely faithful, gentle divine presence beautifully confirms that Jesus always securely stayed right beside your hidden exhaustion. You miraculously overcame severe emotional darkness, bravely surviving all those incredibly painful, entirely exhausting, heavily isolating silent nights. Immense, beautiful emotional relief gently washes over your previously anxious mind, making your fragile soul feel significantly lighter. Letting go of constant, forced pretending miraculously allows your completely drained spirit to finally stop displaying fake strength. Ongoing, perfect spiritual comfort remains securely anchored within, gently proving that his boundless grace continuously carries exhausted hearts. This beautiful, gentle restoration journey completely honors your deep wounds, ensuring that profound healing always happens very slowly. His pure divine compassion softly reaches directly into your heavily shattered core, intimately understanding every single hidden sadness. True emotional connection is wonderfully restored, firmly reminding your incredibly tired soul that you are finally deeply understood. Beautiful, enduring emotional calm is finally restored today, softly bringing true peace back into your completely exhausted heart. Perfect divine emotional support arrives when you miraculously realize that Jesus willingly carried your incredibly massive, invisible exhaustion. An incredible, profound emotional release gently washes over your weary spirit, allowing you to finally breathe incredibly slowly. You beautifully survived all that agonizing, deeply hidden pain because His steadfast love silently protected your fragile soul. Genuine emotional honesty is completely restored, proving that you no longer need to securely hide every single emotion. Incredible, lasting spiritual restoration gently unfolds as His boundless grace beautifully heals your most agonizing, deeply hidden wounds. By fully accepting genuine emotional rest, your utterly exhausted mind finally learns that you absolutely deserve true peace. The massive, crushing emotional burden begins beautifully lifting, allowing your severe daily exhaustion to finally completely soften today. His incredibly constant, pure divine compassion softly proves that Jesus absolutely never stopped caring about your silent tears. This gentle, emotional rebuilding beautifully strengthens your fragile spirit, allowing your severely battered heart to feel significantly stronger. Your incredibly slow, beautiful emotional recovery steadily progresses, carrying your exhausted soul toward brilliant light day by day. Complete emotional security securely anchors your fragile mind, ensuring your weary soul finally feels absolutely safe resting here. His pure faithfulness during extreme suffering gently reassures you that Jesus faithfully stayed beside every single silent breakdown. The painful isolation fades completely when you realize His boundless grace prevents you from ever feeling invisible anymore. Enduring, quiet inner peace finally begins beautifully arriving, successfully reaching directly into your incredibly exhausted, deeply guarded heart. Genuine emotional closure peacefully begins as you securely realize your entirely drained soul can absolutely, finally rest today. His pure, divine love securely surrounds your fragile mind today, proving Jesus deeply understands completely exhausted human hearts. This beautiful spiritual truth gently reminds your weary, broken spirit that you were absolutely, completely, never forgotten today. Ongoing, perfect spiritual comfort remains securely anchored within, gently proving His boundless, divine grace always stayed beside you. You finally realize today that your profound, incredible existence absolutely still matters deeply within this wonderfully restored world. This beautiful, gentle restoration journey completely honors your deep wounds, ensuring that all profound healing takes gentle time. You bravely survived those incredibly difficult emotional seasons simply because His unconditional love provided true, lasting, divine endurance. His completely faithful, gentle, divine presence beautifully confirms that Jesus always securely stayed through every single silent night. Beautiful emotional freedom begins blooming gracefully within today, firmly reminding your spirit that exhaustion cannot ever define you. Enduring, quiet inner peace slowly arrives today, miraculously washing over your heavily exhausted heart like a beautiful wave. Because true emotional safety is beautifully restored, your entirely drained soul finally feels completely secure resting here today. His gentle, divine spiritual healing powerfully carries your deeply exhausted soul through every single incredibly difficult, dark season. Your massive emotional burden finally softens entirely today as you miraculously realize you never carried everything completely alone. By fully accepting genuine emotional rest, your utterly weary spirit successfully learns that it truly deserves beautiful peace. His faithful, enduring, divine comfort remains absolutely steady, proving that Jesus willingly stays right beside you through everything. This incredible, lasting spiritual restoration happens incredibly slowly, beautifully changing your severely battered heart with pure, unconditional love. Perfect divine reassurance completely surrounds your fragile mind, gently reminding you that God deeply loves your tired soul. His beautiful, constant, divine presence gently reassures your incredibly weary spirit, confirming Jesus always clearly saw your pain. A profoundly deep, enduring emotional peace tenderly surrounds you entirely today, while your weary heart slowly finds rest. Complete emotional freedom finally arrives when you securely understand that performing constant fake strength is absolutely never required. This incredible, gentle spiritual transformation unfolds perfectly as His boundless, divine grace completely changes your entirely exhausted heart. His incredibly constant, pure, divine compassion softly proves that Jesus absolutely never, ever stopped loving your silent tears. Genuine emotional closure peacefully begins today as you securely realize your entirely drained soul can absolutely finally rest.